Hi everyone, it's Don Fenton, the Activity Connector, and welcome back to the Power of a Hobby podcast. This is just a shout out to our new sponsor of the podcast. It's Skillsters, which is a inclusive physical activity and wellbeing specialist business. Their tagline is include, adapt, succeed. Skillsters fosters inclusivity by tailoring physical activity programs to meet the unique needs of each individual, ensuring everyone can participate and thrive. You can check them out on their website, www.skillsters.com. They are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So, Skillsters, thank you very much for sponsoring the podcast, and we'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye.
The Power of a Hobby. From inspiration to taking action. With your host, Dom Fenton, the Activity Connector.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the brand new third series of the Power of a Hobby. This is now the beginning of January for this first episode, and I have another guest. Alan, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Dom. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. Obviously, we're recording it before Christmas, but this will obviously go out after Christmas. So if I haven't spoke to you yet, hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Hope you had a great Christmas, and probably by the time this goes out, you probably won't be here, will you?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Yeah, that
not in the country. Not in the country.
Yeah, that sounds slightly ominous.
Let in the country.
Let's just say I'll be in a different country.
Yeah,
and it will be a different background. So yes.
So we might have to get another one with a different background anyway.
Yeah, we'll do another one in the future with a different background, not a dreary UK cold evening.
Lovely. So, for those who don't know you, why don't you just introduce who you are and what you do?
Okay, my name's Alan Proudfoot. I've been teaching PE, I think it's coming up for 17 years now. I did a sports science degree, did my thing, didn't really know where I was going like most people, but I'd always done, I suppose, coaching or working in and around children. So I remember specifically being a lifeguard, and someone said to me, "Why are you doing that when you could do this?" And that was swimming teaching, and that was quite a long time ago. Fast forward, university, got my sports science degree, a few crazy years in the 20s, and then at the back end ended up completing my teaching qualification at Reading. Bizarrely, I've met my future wife. She was in Essex. I was attached to the University of Reading, and I ended up at a school in Southsea near Portsmouth. And then my first ever day of teaching was in William de Ferrers on supply. I did supply from the September of that year up until Christmas. I then landed a job at Shoeburyness High School and started my secondary PE teaching career. And then 11 years ago, I moved across to primary education. So 17 years teaching, 11 years now in primary.
And currently, just at the moment, taking a little break after this week.
Yeah, so timing is absolutely amazing because we've worked together for, I think we worked out 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And in less than 4 days, I will be pausing my teaching career just to go and spend some time chilling out, spend some time with my wife, and being really lucky to explore the planet a little bit and go traveling.
Nice. Feeling very jealous.
Well,
now.
It's interesting you say that because I've been asking people to change that word jealous for envious.
Yeah, no, okay, I like that.
Because it's easy to be jealous, but envious is a nicer word, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll keep it as envious then. What a journey that's going to be. And we've been trying to put this for a while, with our schedules and everything else, but we're finally here. So the first question I ask everyone who comes on the podcast, and I haven't told you this yet, so this will be it's going to be quite a nice one. What does the power of a hobby mean to you?
the first thing that springs to mind is routine.
Yeah.
So whatever hobby it is, big or small, new, hyper focuses, fascination, lifelong participation, it's that routine. For example, I was lucky enough to start practicing, I think that's the right term, martial arts about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And only very recently, within the last 18 months, got to first Dan. And it's just that consistency, that security, that kind of tribe, that kind of thing. But there's something about the routine of a hobby. All kinds of things can be going on for any person. And to have a hobby, however big or small it is, it's that routine, that escape. And don't get me wrong, it's also been to the detriment of others. We all know the phrase overtraining, but that can also be applied, I think, almost to any hobby. Like when it consumes you and takes you away from your other things, whether that be family, friends, and let's face it, in some cases also work as well. You're at work, but you're actually thinking about your hobby. So yeah, I think the short answer is routine.
Okay. And I don't think we've had that yet, so I like that. So in terms, and you've touched briefly on one of your hobbies, and we were having a chat about this beforehand, and really you've had a number of hobbies, and obviously what we try and do is get some talk about one hobby, but this isn't necessarily going to happen today. So talk to me about hobbies, what they mean, how you get into them. Let's maybe look at one or two hobbies that you've got or you've had.
Okay.
And go from there.
I think when we first began to exchange a few messages and talked about this, I said that unfortunately, one of my hobbies feels at times like collecting hobbies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So during my university years, it was records.
Yeah.
So I have a slightly larger than some, but smaller than others, nice record collection. We're talking vinyl, and it's just my thing. And then fast forward to kind of a couple of years ago, inspired by a family member, it at that point became triathlon because it was very physical, very tangible, very, some might say running away from your problems.
Okay.
Some might say pushing your body and your mind to its limits. And some might say just going for a bit of a swim, a bit of a cycle, and a bit of a run. So I think that the common theme for me, I don't know about other people, is opening up hobbies to then find myself like totally entrenched in them and a little bit not lost, but a bit like, oh, what about that other hobby and that other thing? And then it becomes geocaching. That was a thing. And you just think with all these hobbies, it then becomes like this plate spinning situation. I need to go to karate. I should be training for triathlon because that's in a couple of months. Oh, there's a geocache down the road. And should I or should I have not bought that record the other day? And that's when it all goes a bit, ugh. And then the hobbies almost become all consuming and you almost want to push them away. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, and again, a lot, I suppose, when we talk hobbies, we talk the purpose they have, the reasons we get into it, the reasons we continue these. What would you say? So let's talk about, because one of the things we haven't had is record collecting. So let's talk about that, for example. When did all that start? What can you remember what your first record was?
Well, interestingly, it landed upon me because my dad, in particular, is a huge music person.
Yeah.
And without going into kind of like family stuff, this is not that kind of podcast, but I was played a wide selection of music from a very young age, and I'm very thankful for that. Like, that's amazing. And I do actually, I did have to give this some thought. I can remember being given a very bizarre record deck in about 1987 or 88. I don't think it worked very well. but there's a kind of chicken and egg scenario. Was my first record a freebie, most likely from a very kind family member of Adam and the Ants, when they went through that weird phase of whatever the song is, everyone will know it. I can't remember right now, it'll pop in my head later. Or the first single released by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Neither of which are in my collection now. They are lost in the ether.
But the thing is, as much as that, they're now somewhere else. But they help build what you do.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely.
They help lead you on to that next thing. So talk to me about your record collection now. Do you know how many records you've got? How often
Well,
you're playing the music? How often you...
that's also another interesting kind of situation that I find myself in. So with the joys of not selling everything, but certainly compartmentalizing, a very dear friend of mine has offered very kindly to store them for me, because storage in this country is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I am currently at my absolute kind of like gunpoint type scenario, cataloging and then transporting from one side of Southend to the other my record collection. And I reckon I've got to be at least a good, maybe a quarter, if not a third of cataloging, and some of it's already gone over. Like the unit is at my friend's house. I won't show you the round the house tonight because it is a mess. But the catalog, it's bizarre because you go through this cataloging process, which is a massive hobby and exciting job in itself.
Yeah.
And the memories and the feelings, the actual feelings of like, I remember when I bought this record. I remember when I heard this record for the first time. I remember when a friend lent me this. It's brilliant. I've got these 2 records from a very good friend of mine, and there are actual post-it notes from 20 years ago, and I could find them very quickly, but I won't. And it says on one post-it note, I am lending you this record. And then you flip to the next record right behind it, and it says, no, seriously, I'm only lending you these records. So I've still got the post-it notes. So the records themselves, they're not irrelevant. They're great records. It's Groove Armada. But the fact that my friend took the time to send them to me, because he's a music guy, and we don't even need to go into that, but he's a music guy, those post-it notes probably in that particular instance mean more than the records. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
did you, when you started all this, did you think this was where you'd end up in terms of your collection and stuff like that?
I think I knew that I would have to go through some transition with it all. For example, we've already alluded to jumping hobbies.
Yeah.
In order to get a nice bicycle, 2 friends of mine helped me out, shall we say.
Yeah.
And one of them has now got my record decks, so 2 Technics, and the other one's got the club mixer. And as a result of that, I've now got a very nice triathlon bike.
It all leads somewhere, doesn't it?
But the ironic thing is that neither record decks or a club standard mixer or a carbon fiber triathlon bike are very useful when you're trying to minimize and not change my hobby now to traveling. Traveling is traveling. It's not a hobby. It's where me and my wife are going to go and do our thing. But those hobbies are almost holding me back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic that what has brought me so much joy, and I'm sure will do again at another phase, at the moment is like, well, they are the biggest ball and chain in my life. Because you want them to be looked after. You want to put them in the right place.
Yeah.
But you just want it done.
Yeah. And it's you build up all these things over time. And it's that because things are slightly changing, you're having to look at now that next step with everything.
Yeah. I mean, yet again, not alluding to who I'm making reference to here. Let's just say there's a person, and when I look at a certain piece of furniture, and this is in some people's homes of a certain generation, it's full of, got to be very careful here, let's call it glassware.
Right. Yeah.
And some people, it's a generational thing. It's like we keep things that look nice, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But when do they stop becoming functional and they just become like ornaments in a display cabinet? Like, I've played all of my records. I know all of my records inside out. But is it possible to pay 3, 4, I reckon, if I'm lucky, 450, hopefully not more than 500. I don't think so, maybe 400 records at one time? Of course it isn't. But it's the whole process, it's the kinesthetic behind it. That's the hobby, that's the driver. Even ask anyone that collects records, what's their favorite bit? It's going into a record store and flicking through. It's getting that new piece and opening it for the first time. That is what record collecting is all about.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. So we got the records, and you said you then got into triathlon.
Yeah, that's been a recent thing.
Okay.
It's so easy. My stepbrother completed his first Ironman not that long ago. And we're quite lucky here. There's a company called Sun-Dried in Southend.
Right, yeah.
They sponsor the Southend triathlon. And I did that a couple of summers ago.
Okay.
And I loved it. Like, even my wife said, she was like, I remember her saying, as I came over the finish line and she was there and stuff, my grandson was there. She was like, you really enjoyed that, didn't you? And I was like, yep. And it's no different, I'm guessing, similar but different to runners high. I think mountaineers talk about it. You get to whatever your peak is, actually or metaphorically, and then you want the next one.
Yeah.
So how many triathletes, elite, beginners, and all of us in the middle somewhere, finish one and then go, right, I'm going to book another one?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you see that a lot, because I remember when I did a skydive and I landed, and I was like, right, I need to do another one.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, complete. So how many have you done now then?
So I'm lucky enough, I've done the London duathlon. Slightly different to try is the run, cycle, run. I've done that as an individual, and I've done that as a team, and I was really sad to learn that for whatever reason, funding, politics, and whatever, that one's kind of shut down. That's in Richmond Park, southwest London, where I went to university. Done that a couple of times. Like I said, I've done the sun-dried one. I was really lucky, not this summer, so it must have been summer 23. Went to Blenheim Palace in the Cotswolds. If anybody out there wants to do a beautiful triathlon, that is the one. But watch out for the lake swim, because that's a bit freaky. And then very close to home, we've got, like, I'm very lucky where I work at my school, the groundsman's son is heavily involved with Blackwater Triathlon Club.
Okay, yeah.
And they do their local kind of annual thing. It's very low key. It's at the Blackwater Leisure Centre. The swim is in there. Cycling and running in the local area, out by the promenade. So I'm really lucky in that in a short space of time, that particular hobby brought a lot of exciting experiences, massively. So
yeah, and I think that's great, because actually sometimes you want to find hobbies that you can start up relatively quickly. Yes, there's things that you need to do to prepare yourself to do a duathlon or a triathlon, whichever one you're doing. But obviously, and generally, clubs are pretty welcoming.
Well, the thing is, I think you'll be very hard pushed to go to a duathlon, a triathlon, or whatever, and have people go, excuse me, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
That if there's anything that I've found within that particular hobby, and then this parallels nicely with, like, the karate fraternity.
Yeah.
People are so welcoming and supportive. Because if you've got the most expensive bike and the most aerodynamic running wear, that doesn't mean you're going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
it means you've just got a bit more pennies to spend.
Yeah.
And it's the same with karate. You know, you could have the best gi and your belt could have been made from silk from the foothills of Japan. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. And with all of this stuff, it's not about what you're wearing. It's just, you know, are you coming into the transition at a triathlon and throwing your stuff around like a bit of a stroppy one? Or are you going, oh, are you struggling to get your shoes on there? Or can I help you put your, what is it, when you've got to put the numbers on the tattoos?
Yeah.
That drives me crazy because you're trying to rush and get to the start line on time.
Yeah.
And that's no different to trying to tie your belt up in karate or judo or whatever your martial art is for the first time. And people going, oh, no, do it like this. It's so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously you had a range of different hobbies. So if we look at even just a little bit further ahead with when you're traveling and stuff, I suppose the beauty of some of these is that actually when you're away, you can go for a run. You can go and do some other bits. Are you going to look at doing that, or are you just going to completely switch off?
What's interesting, and a really interesting conversation I had only a couple of weeks ago, was that we all have to put on certain masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I go and do this traveling, part of that for me personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of my wife, but part of that for me is to drop some of the masks.
Yeah.
In fact, drop quite a few.
All of them. Yeah.
So if I want to go for a run, I'll go for a run. If I want to do the classic chip up in Thailand and go to a Muay Thai thing, I will. And if I don't want to, I won't.
Yeah.
Because of what I am, not who I am, but what I am, my DNA or my approach to life or whatever. I have been telling people already, like, I want to jump on this thing and I'm pointing to my laptop now and I want to be curious and try and teach myself to write music.
Yeah.
Really good friend of mine, a very good, kind, gentle friend. I don't know if I'm meant to do shout out, so I won't do that. He said to me on the beach in October half term a couple of weeks ago, he said, Alan, you don't have to go and make music because you want to be a superstar DJ.
Yeah.
You have to go and make music because you want to.
Yeah.
And we were walking along this beach. It was a lovely sunny day just outside St. Ives, a place called Hale. And I was like, mate, thank you. And it's the same with, like, how many people in their lives say, I want to write a book or I want to write my book.
Yeah.
It's bizarre and I can show you, but I won't. I've already written the chapters for about 6 months now. I've been collecting quotes from people. I've got these notes and the notes and the notes and the notes in my phone off the scale, just because if I feel like sitting down on a beach or on a train or on a plane and typing a paragraph, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If I don't want to, I won't. That's the exciting thing. That's what I'm obviously going traveling and spending amazing time with my wife is a massive driver. But I know there's going to be times when she's going to want some quiet time.
And you're going to have to go and find something to do. And
exactly. For people, and I do want to put a buzzword in because I think it's important. I think for neurodivergent people,
yeah.
I think we need structure.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm terrified of going away without structure. That would be almost a bit immature and whatever, because clearly I've got some coping strategies. I'm here. We've already discussed it earlier. Tender age of 44. But at the same time, like, I need to have some stuff. I do mean just stuff that I can lean into if I want to.
Yeah, love that.
That's where
right. Before we close it, final question I ask everyone. If someone came up to you and said they haven't got a hobby but they'd like to, what would you say to them?
Okay. Interesting, because this parallels nicely back towards my career.
Yeah.
So I think I've already mentioned subtly or unsubtly that I'm a PE teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, little Jimmy or little Sarah is really good at football. Do you think they should be a footballer? Or they're really good at swimming. Do you think they should go and swim and be in the Olympics?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What we should do, certainly for children, I know that wasn't really part of your question, but it's important. I like the buffet approach.
Yeah.
Go up to the buffet and try
Everything.
And whether you're a child and that's sport, whether you're an adult and that's hobbies, just go and try everything.
Yeah.
Because you can have 15,000 different hobbies if you want.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you a load of money and you might upset a few people on the way, or you can just have one. But I think hobbies in itself, like, you need to go and try some stuff.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Is that
that does answer, because a lot of what we talk about is a lot of people listen to this will generally go, actually, hobbies are for children. What we're obviously part of what we're trying to do, or they started hobbies as a child. What we're trying to do is portray that it's not, and that actually everyone needs something to be able to do.
Yeah, of course.
So the fact is, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult, go and try different things, go and try lots of different hobbies. See which ones work for you, see which ones don't.
I think there's a build-up from that as well, Dom, in that I think it's quite sad. I know I'm in a lucky position, and we've talked about my travelling, and we don't even need to talk about certain stuff, but I really think it's quite sad when people say, when I retire, I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I just think, well, regardless of finance, time in your career, marital status, all the other stuff that we've got to juggle and plate spin, if you want to pick up a guitar, why are you going to wait another 10 years?
Yeah.
You either want to pick it up or you don't. The same with, I don't know, calligraphy.
Yeah.
Or let's go old school and go back to stamp collecting.
If you want to do it,
do it now.
Yeah, completely agree.
So I don't know, but yeah, I think it's a really interesting point there, that adults can have hobbies and they're not just for children.
Yeah, no, love that. Alan, thank you so much for taking the time out and doing the podcast. Yeah, time's gone really, really quickly. Good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I will look to keep a lookout on what you're doing, and we'll keep in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dom. It's been really nice to chat to you.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Power of a Hobby. I'm your host, Dom Fenton, and we'll see you again soon. Take care now.
Don't forget to like, comment and share, and join us again next time.